What is going on, everybody? It is Ahmed, and I am back today with yet another video for you on. Today, guys, we need to talk about 4 ETFs that you should consider adding to your portfolio before the year end, because 2026 is looking like a very strong year for this specific industry. And don't take my word for it. Instead, take the words of Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, Tom Lee, CEO of BitMiner, and also take the words of insider traders and people that are actually doubling down on the dip, including members of the US government in Congress. But remember, as always, never financial advice, just trying to put you guys on the plays that I'm in. If you're new around here, smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also consider subscribing. Thank you for those of you that have already subscribed. We already are at 130 subs, and hopefully we continue to flourish and grow. Now, one of the things that I love about the equities market, unlike crypto and other places, you can see when members of the US government are buying certain things and selling certain things per the 2012 Trading Act that was put into law. David McCormick, back in November, and just filed the last few days in end of December that he purchased Bitwise's Bitcoin ETF, $50,000 to $100,000 buys multiple times over, and he's not the only one. Nancy Pelosi, all these others are doubling down on different industries, those that are in the AI sector and within the crypto sector. Now, a lot of you might ask, wait, are you creating crypto content on your non-crypto channel? Well, look, I want to talk about the ETF side of the cryptocurrency market because I think, again, there's some substantial potential that is coming in to crypto next year. And all these ETFs will also shed light on that because they have cooled off since their all-time highs back in October. And I think we're going to see, based off the macro structure with Tom Lee and Larry Fink's ideals kind of coming into fruition, we have substantial places that we can go. And the first one I want to cover is iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF. Currently sitting at $50.12. It was launched back in January, as well as a lot of other Bitcoin spot ETFs. So from $24 a share, it rallied all the way up to an all-time high beginning of October of $70 and then has cooled off since by double digits. And the question becomes right now, will IBIT's iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF make a rally and return to all-time high? My answer is yes, and I think it's going to be as soon as maybe even Q1, Q2 2026. I think that's when we're going to see the decoupling of crypto from the rest of the market. And of course, when Bitcoin performs well, so will their respective ETFs that gives people direct access through their stock brokerages to purchase these cryptocurrencies. It's an indirect way to do so, but not having to worry about custody and self-custody or storage, all the different things that you'll have to have as headaches. This gives you easy access through your regular stock brokerage account. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people are wondering why would crypto do well? Well, first and foremost, we need to look at what's going to happen from a macro structure perspective for the markets because we know cryptocurrency as a whole is a risk on asset, but we need to look at what's going to happen. So we know Federal Reserve Jerome Powell is going to be replaced in 2026 because his time is up. Donald Trump has been saying time and time again he needs to bring down the federal funds rate to 1%. Cut rates, cut rates, cut rates. That's the president of the United States speaking. Now, the Federal Reserve chair is the one who actually makes the final decision, but it's also a committee decision. Now, the expectation is we're going to get a very dovish meaning somebody that is willing to cut rates and is more aggressive with rate cuts to make sure the economy stays afloat than someone that is hawkish, historically speaking, like Jerome Powell, who all he cares about is inflation, inflation, inflation. And though inflation numbers have been looking very good, he refuses to get aggressive with rate cuts because he's a very cautious Fed chair, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but for the markets, it keeps people, again, on the more cautious side than more optimistic rate cutting 2020 to 2021 style, just all risk on assets running to all-time highs, because that's what happens in a very dovish market, from a dovish chair, in a very risk on market with rate cuts. The Feds are likely to cut rates next year in 2026, but the internal divisions and mixed economic data could limit the extent and pace. Of course, having a replaced chair is going to affect this tremendously. Even with a new chair, though, appointed by Donald Trump, interest rate decisions will depend on committee consensus. So make sure you guys understand that it's not only one man who gets to make the final decisions. Now, This is also where Tom Lee's prediction comes in. So the Federal Reserve is heading into a tricky 2026 with official debate, the economy's mixed signals, and President Donald Trump is due to naming a new Fed chair. Okay? The central bank will likely lower rates a couple of times. Some analysts say as November job report brought the latest evidence of a weakening economy. One big question is whether Trump's new Fed chair will push for aggressive action and whether the 18 other members of the Federal Open Market Committee, or the FOMC, will be on the same page. The chair does not have unbound power to push the committee into whatever direction he chooses, wrote Matt Luzette, chief U.S. economist at the Deutsche Bank. So you guys got to look at what Tom Lee is saying and what Larry Fink are saying, because these are some key holders, right? Key holders in the sense of they have significant data and also time in the market, and they are multi-billion, for Larry Fink, multi-trillion-dollar asset managers. Tom Lee predicts a 10 to 15% downside for the stock market in early 2026, a small correction in the S&P 500, as well as major indexes. Here is why the Ethereum bull sees crypto's best year ahead. So here's his take. Lee expects the market to come back in force in 2026 with Bitmine Emerging Technologies, or BMNR. He's again the CEO and founder. He says 2026 could mirror 2025, a year marked by early bear market shifting to a bull market later on. This assessment rang true for equities, with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ composite bouncing sharply from their April sell-offs. And remember, that was triggered by Donald Trump's tariffs being enacted and what he coined as Liberation Day. Now, Lee says the pro-business regulations, particularly those linked to artificial intelligence, the upcoming midterm elections, and new Federal Reserve leadership could prove kind of good for the market. It's going to come back in force, but it will take maybe the first half of the year to get through that, because we don't have a new Fed chair for the first half. So I think the first half next year could be down to 10 to 15%, and then a really big and massive recovery. So what does that mean for crypto? Today, there are only 4 million Bitcoin wallets with $10,000 in them. There's 900 IRA and brokerage accounts globally that have $10,000. So that's 200 times larger than the market, he stated. Like the stock market, cryptocurrencies rebound from April lows to reach peak valuations in early October. Since then, they've plunged into sharp decline, erasing all gains recorded so far in 2025. And he's dismissing this whole narrative about people saying the AI bubble. Larry Fink from BlackRock, similar ideologies, softens crypto stance as BlackRock boasts biggest US Bitcoin ETF. My thought process has evolved with the AI race and crypto being coupled with that. Because remember, something that Brian Armstrong and a lot of other key opinion leaders have stated in the industry is that the currency of AI is not going to be fiat. It's got to be digital assets like crypto. Once a proud skeptic of crypto, BlackRock chairman and CEO Larry Fink continues to soften his stance on the digital currencies as his firm has become the biggest player in the increasing mainstream investment. And remember, Visa, yes, the major credit card distributor and issuer, Visa says that now we consider crypto mainstream and no longer consider it a speculative asset. Speaking during the New York Times Dealbook conference on Wednesday, Fink said, "My thought process has evolved on cryptocurrency." Fink reiterated on Wednesday that his initial view of crypto's potential was incorrect. "On crypto, my thought process has evolved," repeating a statement that the U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent said about tariffs during an early conversation on the same stage. BlackRock's iShares ETF, which launched back in 2024, as I mentioned earlier in the video, with several competitor ETFs, quickly grew to become the largest U.S. listed Bitcoin ETF. Today, the ETF has accumulated $70 billion worth of assets, becoming the fastest ETF ever recorded of all time, including those in the equities market, along with Bitcoin holding juggernaut strategy, MSTR, one of the largest Bitcoin holders in the world. And we know what Saylor's been doing with his leveraging and everything like that. So that's why I decided to make today's video. And so far, I've only talked about one of the 4 ETFs, and that is IBIT, ticker symbol IBIT from from BlackRock. We also have BitB, which is Bitwise's Bitcoin ETF. And of course, this is what David McCormick has doubled down on and bought over maybe $200,000 worth of buys in the last month. We have Fidelity Wise or Origin Bitcoin Fund, which also, again, they're all about up about 100% since they came into market. But I think, again, they've cooled off from all-time highs, giving them a pretty strong buy the dip opportunity here, in my opinion. And last but not least, ARK Invest 21 shares Bitcoin ETF, I think can top off the list. As 4 potential ETFs, make sure you pay attention to all the different entities that are in these ETFs, because it's not you just getting direct Bitcoin exposure. You're getting exposure to Bitcoin, some miners, MicroStrategy type DATs or treasury type companies, asset treasuries. Make sure you're looking at all 4 of these and deciding for yourself which one makes the most sense per your investment thesis. But I think, again, based off of the cooling crypto market, going into a pretty substantial positive macro structure for 2026, and all these other key opinion leaders giving us their statements, we should see some significant upside. I appreciate you guys' support as always. That's all I had for you guys today. And until next time, as always, everybody, keep investing. Peace.